Right now, somewhere in your day, there is a door. You already know which one it is. One side is easy, warm, familiar. It asks nothing of you. The other side is quiet, cold, and completely indifferent to your excuses. Every single day, you stand in front of that door and you choose. Most people choose without even realizing they're choosing. And that, more than anything else, is why some lives expand and others quietly shrink. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right moment, the right mood, the right amount of energy, the right circumstances lining up before you finally do the hard thing. But the truth is simpler and harder to hear. There is no perfect moment coming to rescue you from the decision in front of you right now. There is only this hour, this choice, this door. Somewhere underneath the busyness of your schedule, there's a quieter tension you rarely say out loud, the sense that you are capable of more than the life you're currently living. You feel it when you scroll instead of start. When you say tomorrow for the fourth day in a row. When you watch someone less talented than you outwork you into a life you wanted. That tension isn't weakness. It's information. It's the part of you that hasn't given up, even when your habits suggest otherwise. Today isn't about guilt. Guilt is loud and useless. Today is about seeing the choice clearly, maybe for the first time, so you can stop losing to it by accident. Comfort doesn't announce itself as the enemy. That's the first thing you need to understand. It never knocks loudly. It never asks permission. It slides in disguised as rest you've earned, as a reasonable excuse, as just this once. Picture a man standing at the base of a hill every morning. The climb would take him 20 minutes. Every day, he tells himself he'll do it tomorrow, when the weather's better, when he's slept more. Weeks pass. The hill hasn't moved. Neither has he. That's comfort's real weapon, not confrontation, but patience. It doesn't need to defeat you in one moment. It only needs you to keep saying later until later becomes a way of life. And here's the part almost nobody tells you: comfort feels like safety, but it behaves like debt. Every time you take the easier path, you're not avoiding cost. You're deferring it. Adding interest. Trading a small, manageable discomfort now for a much larger one you'll meet later, as regret, as stagnation, as the ache of watching a life you didn't build. Growth, by contrast, always announces itself honestly. It tells you up front, this will be uncomfortable. This will cost you something today. That honesty is precisely why people avoid it. Not because growth is harder than comfort in some ultimate sense, but because its cost is immediate, and comfort's cost is hidden. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are simply responding to an incentive structure that rewards the easy choice in the short term and punishes it in the long term, in a currency you can't see yet. Once you see that clearly, the door stops looking so confusing. Here's a mindset shift that changes everything. Stop asking whether you feel ready. Readiness is a myth sold to people who are looking for a reason to wait. Nobody wakes up fully charged, perfectly motivated, and free of doubt. Not the disciplined person you admire. Not the version of you that you're trying to become. The difference isn't the presence of resistance. The difference is what they do while the resistance is still there. Think of two runners standing at a starting line on a cold morning. Both feel exactly the same reluctance. Both feel the same pull toward staying wrapped in a blanket instead. One waits for the reluctance to disappear before moving. The other starts moving while the reluctance is still present, and simply carries it with them for the first few hundred meters until it fades on its own. Only one of them finishes the run. Motivation was never the requirement. Movement was. This is why waiting to feel ready quietly sabotages more lives than outright failure does. Failure teaches you something. Waiting teaches you nothing, it just costs you time while convincing you that you're being responsible. The next time you feel that familiar hesitation before the hard task, don't treat it as a stop sign. Treat it as background noise. It's allowed to be there. It's not allowed to drive. There's a quiet arithmetic running underneath your daily choices, whether you're tracking it or not. Each time you choose growth over comfort, the choice gets a little easier the next day. Each time you choose comfort over growth, the same thing happens in reverse: comfort gets easier, and growth becomes more foreign, more distant, more like something other people do. This is not motivation. This is mechanism. You are, quite literally, training your own threshold for discomfort with every decision you make. Picture a woman who starts writing for 15 minutes each morning, even when the words come out clumsy and the ideas feel small. Nothing about day one looks impressive. But 3 months later, she isn't fighting the same resistance she fought on day one. The chair no longer feels foreign. The blank page no longer feels hostile. She built that ease. It wasn't given to her. Now picture the version of her who skipped day 1 just this once, and then found it easier to skip day 4, and day 11, until skipping became the default setting of her life. Same woman. Same talent. 2 entirely different trajectories, decided not by one dramatic moment, but by a long chain of small, unremarkable choices that compounded quietly in the background. This is the part discipline actually rests on. Not intensity. Repetition. You don't need a heroic version of yourself today. You need a slightly more consistent one than yesterday. That's the whole game. Let's talk about the story you tell yourself about who you are, because it's shaping this choice more than you realize. If you've spent years describing yourself as someone who struggles with discipline, someone who always starts strong and fades, someone who isn't a morning person or a finisher, that story isn't neutral. It's a prediction. And predictions have a habit of fulfilling themselves. Every time you choose comfort, you're not just making a small decision about this one afternoon. You're casting a vote for a version of yourself. Every time you choose growth, you're casting a vote for a different version entirely. No single vote defines you. But the pattern of votes does, eventually, become identity. Imagine 2 employees given the same difficult project. One privately believes, "I'm someone who avoids hard things." The other believes, "I'm someone who does hard things, even slowly." Neither belief is provable in the moment. Both are, in a sense, a story. But one story leads to opening the laptop at 9, and the other leads to opening it at midnight in a panic, if at all. You are, right now, in the process of writing that story with today's choices, not with some future version of discipline you're planning to install once conditions improve. Stop waiting to become the kind of person who chooses growth. Start choosing growth, in small unremarkable ways, and let the identity catch up to the behavior. It always does. It just never comes first. There's one more layer to this, and it's the one most people never reach, because they stop at willpower and assume that's the whole answer. Willpower is real, but it's a shallow well. It runs out by mid-afternoon. It cannot be the foundation of a disciplined life, because foundations need to hold weight every single day, not just on the days you feel strong. What holds instead is structure, the environment and routines you build so that the right choice requires less willpower to begin with. Consider someone trying to eat with more discipline who keeps nothing but vegetables and lean protein within easy reach, and keeps the tempting alternatives out of the house entirely. They're not relying on heroic self-control at 8 at night when they're tired. They engineered the moment in advance, back when their judgment was clear. Compare that to someone relying purely on willpower in the heat of the moment, standing in front of every option, hoping today is the day discipline wins the argument. One of them built a system. The other is gambling on mood. This is what mature discipline actually looks like from the inside, not a white-knuckled battle fought fresh every single time, but a life quietly arranged so the harder path is a little easier to choose, and the easier path is a little harder to fall into. You reduce the number of times you have to rely on raw willpower, and you save that willpower for the moments structure genuinely cannot cover. That's not weakness. That's strategy. Discipline isn't about having more strength than everyone else. It's about needing less of it, because you built your days intelligently. So here is the truth, stripped of every excuse you've used to soften it. You are not waiting for motivation. You are not waiting for the right circumstances. You are not even waiting for confidence. You are choosing. Every single day. Whether you admit it or not. The door was never hidden from you. You've walked past it 1,000 times, and 1,000 times, some part of you knew exactly which side you were choosing and why. Comfort will never send you an invoice for what it costs you. It will simply let you wake up 1 year from now, 5 years from now, in the exact same place, a little older, a little more tired, still telling yourself the story that tomorrow is when it starts. Growth doesn't promise you comfort. It never did. It only promises you a version of yourself capable of standing in front of harder doors without flinching. You don't need to conquer your entire future today. You need to win one door. This one. The one directly in front of you, right now, in this very moment. Not because it's easy. Because it's yours to choose. And the sum of everything you will ever become is simply this decision, made again, and again, and again, on ordinary days nobody else is watching. Choose the hill. Choose the page. Choose the harder door. Not because you feel ready. Because you decided to be someone who moves anyway. The choice between growth and comfort was never a single, dramatic moment. It was always going to be an ordinary Tuesday. An ordinary hour. A door you almost didn't notice. What you do with it today is quietly deciding who you'll be standing in front of a year from now. Take a moment, if you're willing, to sit with which door you've been choosing lately, no judgment, just honesty. And if this reached you at the right time, consider staying close to this space. There's more of this conversation ahead.